to the 6, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto, told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip, who you with?
Right. So, got a special guest today, somebody whose work I've admired for quite a while, somebody who has a very level view about the area that I live in, area a lot of people live in, but the Bay Area. But we have Fang here, and I'm still, I still want to say the Intercept. I don't want. I know you're not there anymore, but I still want to say that because that's when I first started following you. But you're contributing to the Unheard now, is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit, but primarily writing on Substack. You know, since I left the Intercept last year, it's a little bit of freelance gigs here and there, but trying to syndicate my content on other sites. So primarily Substack.
How's that going? Because I know it's cool to do stuff on your own, but I feel like it's a lot tougher too.
Well, you know, I spent 8 years of my life, almost exactly. I left on like a week after my 8-year anniversary there at the Intercept. And even though I was part of a medium-sized team, you know, I'm the only guy out here in California. You know, there's someone in Sacramento, but, you know, he's not a regular contributor. So I'm basically I've been out orbiting by myself. I just kind of send a draft in, it gets edited, it gets sent back to me. You know, before the Intercept, I was freelancing and running my own little blog, documenting political corruption. So I'm used to being quasi-solo. So it's nice. It's just more editorial freedom, a little bit different in terms of like managing an audience, which, you know, the whole business side of journalism, I'm completely ignorant about and learning as I go. But yeah, it's good.
I don't even know what the business side of journalism is nowadays, because it does kind of, I'm a little bit different. I kind of like, now that you have like a Substack or anybody has like a Substack, I'm like, let me just find them. But as far as actual sites go, I mean, there's people getting laid off left and right. You know, I mean, like it's a different realm than what you cover, but like BuzzFeed, gone. You know, just these sites that have been around since I've been on the internet.
I don't know.
Right?
Did you see this thing yesterday?
No.
Vivek Ramaswamy buying shares in BuzzFeed, so he's now the 4th biggest shareholder. It might be the Vivek feed soon. I don't know. Maybe it'll be revived as a MAGA thing.
I was gonna say, is he just trolling? Like, or is he actually trying to rebrand it? That's hilarious.
I have no idea. I got no inside intel. It was just pretty crazy.
That I did not know. No, that's funny. But all these sites, like I knew it was bad when a lot of people were pushing back on AI, which I'm not a big fan of, like AI prompting or anything like that. But the problem was I saw a lot of articles that were so clickbaity and so just pulled straight from Twitter or whatever, that I saw so many people complaining about AI. And I'm like, well, you kind of made yourself pretty replaceable by just kind of being neck and neck with AI and trying to race against the machine. Whereas a lot of the journalism we're used to is kind of like long, sprawling pieces, maybe not every single day, maybe not every single hour, but something that you could actually sit with and digest. And it doesn't seem like we're in that era anymore as far as like the main publications, like, you know?
Well, like, I think BuzzFeed is kind of like Gawker. They pioneered a form of journalism and then made themselves obsolete. You know, like Gawker was really unique and edgy because it had this, you know, mean kind of bitchy voice that was crude and condescending to everyone. And they made it so popular that it's no longer unique. You know, you look on Twitter, that's how everyone talks, like a 2007 Gawker personality. And, you know, that was their bread and butter. So once they lost the kind of unique element to their style, then why even read a Gawker like site? And the same thing with BuzzFeed. They did this kind of pre-AI, but like AI, A/B testing, listicle, ultra SEO optimized content that then took off, and you have a gazillion copycats, and now actual machine learning doing the work that humans used to do at BuzzFeed. What's the point of BuzzFeed? You know, they made it so popular that they made themselves obsolete.
Yeah, and then like I could understand, and I don't know if this is what happened, but it seemed like a lot of companies did this. They kind of during 2020 when COVID, when everyone was in their house, like we were a bit like parsing out episodes of Tiger King and like The Last Dance, so people were just looking for anything. I can imagine some of those places had a bigger staff because it's like, hey, every day cat things, I don't care, anything, like put it out on the internet. And then after a while, people are like, the hell am I on here anymore for?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, the true opportunity which I missed out on during pandemic was creating a subscription-based model. I mean, big fortunes were made in terms of growing lists when people were bored and just subscribing to everything. You know, but a lot of these sites, they pissed away a lot of opportunities, and you know, they're a shell of their former selves. I mean, it's an existential question. Not to make it too serious, but for like democracy, isn't just voting. Like you can vote in a society, but if the society is not free, is that democracy? Like if you don't have powerful and diverse, in the true sense of the term, media institutions that are holding, you know, business and politicians and government and people in society accountable, then how do you even come to reasonable or thoughtful conclusions as a society in terms of how to move forward? And yeah, the old model is dead. No one buys newspapers. No one buys magazines.
Yeah.
Advertising model is dead. NPR is fucked. You know, publicly funded media has just eaten itself with like crazy partisanship and like brain dead ideology around like wokeness. So I mean, like I'm on Substack, but that's obviously not a viable future for like if you're in Fresno or some small town in Tennessee, and you lose your local newspaper. What, like, there's no Substack that can replace that.
No.
We're kind of going into no man's land. Like our last, the 250 years of the American experiment has been built around newspapers. Like the revolution was, formulated and expanded through these kind of underground pamphlets and revolutionary newspapers. The biggest debates around all the big policy changes and political questions we've ever had are kind of facilitated by newspapers. Now we don't have newspapers. We have like SEO optimized AI bullshit. We have some quality institutions. I like the Wall Street Journal. I like Bloomberg. I read those, but they have their own blind spots. You also want a vibrant, small, independent, critical media. You want kind of regional, local journalism. All that's dying.
We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. Yeah, and that it's like I go on, and the other day, and look, I'm more online than I think the average person who would have enjoyed the newspaper still being around. But I go on the internet, and I saw you had said something about it on Twitter that I thought was pretty profound, where you look at, and this is a Guardian, something, is it massive? Yeah, but it's not like Wall Street Journal level, but it's the Guardian, and you think, this guy, there's people on there spending time like doxing just like right-wing guys on Twitter. And I'm just like, just doxing, like sprawling. It's the longest article I had seen in a while, like truly. And I'm not a guy who reads a lot of print media nowadays because, again, where, but I'm looking, I'm like, that how much effort was put in? Like, did somebody really, was this really like a huge scoop to anybody? And I liked the guy that he taught. I thought the guy was pretty fun and interesting and cool. And like I didn't think it was a very damning piece, but it was the time and energy spent into that, as opposed to like, we're like 3 months till an election, 3 or 4 months till an election. And this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like the true bias that every journalist has, no matter how objective they claim to be, is how you spend your time and resources. Like if I prioritize one issue over the other issue, that shows my bias. We're all human beings. We're going to prioritize one thing over the other.
Right.
And the fact that they prioritize unmasking, oh no, some right-wing anon or some random Twitter account that says maybe mean things, that's what they prioritize. That shows a bias because there's a lot of secrecy in society, and maybe some Twitter accounts do deserve to be unmasked. I mean, there's some cowardly people out there that, talk a lot of shit, that actually do have a lot of influence, and they don't deserve anonymity. But really, think about this country: 320 million people, biggest economy, biggest military in the world, a lot of political secrets, a lot of business secrets. Our country's basically a tax shelter in terms of how we create real estate. A lot of the Western industrialized world, the government knows who owns every piece of real estate. In America, we don't have those laws. You can create a shell company and buy $100 million office tower, and the government doesn't even really know who owns it. America's unusual. We have unusual secrecy in some ways.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like, to me, I'm not technically anonymous. I show my face. I mean, it's whatever. Everything's a thing. And that was kind of that's still a thing now. And I understand it, but I get it from like, if I'm writing articles out there and I see some guy just like completely just kind of just behind an account, just saying all this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, like, or like critiquing, Lee, why didn't you go this hard? Why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say? It's like, well, dude, you clearly have to go through these like 10 protocols of protecting yourself before, saying what you were just about to say. Like, so I get that balance of it, but I just was like, I looked, I'm like, man, this is what a company paid you to do. Like, this is what a company paid you to do, was unmask this. That to me, I'm not shocked that it happened. I'm shocked that it happened at like the Guardian and not somebody's Substack.
There's this weird dynamic around doxing where I remember back in 2017, there was like a moral panic, a little bit of a far left hysteria that, we're all going to get rounded up by Trump and put in prison. So we all need to mask up. And the worst thing you can do is dox a left-wing activist because, we all have to protect our anonymity in this police state. And it's like, okay, I don't think that really comports with reality, the actual risks that are faced. Right. But then those same kind of far left activists, some of them in the media, some of them in politics, will then like rabidly unmask every conservative anon. It's like, wait, I thought like anonymity is the most important thing. It's like, I think one of the biggest kind of issues in the media, beyond the kind of crumbling economic model, is this lack of principles. Like, if you have a principled stand around anonymity, then let's be consistent. If you say that certain political figures need to be unmasked, well, then do it on both sides. But if you do it just on one side and then whine about the other side, then you're just being a partisan.
It is. And it's yeah, exactly. It's principles. For me, I just want level playing field. All right, that's the rule. Let's operate on that rule, flat rule, just whatever. When somebody's mean to me on the internet, I don't need to know where they live or where they work. I'm just kind of like, I'm going to get your ass next time, dude. It's just like, it's a game, mano y mano, like to me. And it's an Olympic sport to a lot of other people. And, again, it's not something that I see happen all the time. It was just on that platform that I thought was so strange in a year. I guess it always feels like an election year now. I guess that's also the problem, to where like this actually feels like the least election year of election years for me. I don't know if it feels that way for you, but like,
I feel weird. I'm pretty, like, I don't follow sports, but I follow elections for both professional reasons. I write about them, and I find it endlessly amusing, entertaining, interesting, kind of obsess over all the numbers of all the factors. It is in some sense a sports game, in that
it is.
putting aside like all the things that matter, like yeah, elections do matter, results that are downstream to policy and culture and how we live our lives. But put that aside, it is gamified in the sense that you can look at all these different numbers and factors and calculations and get really interested in the math and like how the two sides compete or what have you. But and that's usually me in every election. I'm just kind of fascinated. Except for this one. I mean, it's just like I'm tuned out. This obviously there are high stakes and whatever, but it's just I have to struggle to care. And I actually have a huge incentive now. Like now that I'm like on Substack and can make money from my reporting, I still can't motivate myself to care at all about this election. I'm desperately trying.
Yeah, and perhaps the debates will probably get me even me a little fired up. I don't know. For me, I'm the same way. I'm kind of just like, look, I'm voting where I'm going to vote, and then that's it. Like I don't know how even the nuts and bolts of a lot of that stuff, because I am a sports fan. I guess that's where I get my fix. But like I get my fix from that, or that rush from there. But yeah, I'm going to vote where I'm going to vote. But I guess now, like, yeah, Trump's going to take the stage and debate. It's going to be electric. All of that stuff is going to be on display. Might get me a little more in the home stretch, the true home stretch of like the election year and stuff. But one of the main reasons I brought you on was because like I said, you covered, there was a time a couple of years ago, really, really polarizing time since I had been on the internet for the Bay Area. Really since like Fruitvale Station, like era stuff, like Oscar Grant stuff was probably the last time I'd seen it this crazy. But it was around the time, I think, when Chesa Boudin, I think was his name, was put into power in San Francisco, and it didn't go so hot. But there were a lot of, on one side was just saying, hey, you guys are basically allowing shoplifting to happen and all of this stuff, and you can't walk around in San Francisco anymore. There's excrement all over the street. There no businesses are allowed to last anymore, and it's all just kind of this like smart city that they're trying to build out there. But I felt you covered it from like a pretty neutral angle, and correct, because I am outside in the streets every day due to my job to see everything. And I felt like you did a good job. I mean, what went into that? Because everything I saw was either go out and steal from Walgreens, it's totally fine, or we want Judge Dredd. So I don't know. Like, how did you go about that? I mean, did you just simply go outside and look, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't do a ton of coverage, but yeah, I mean, it interests me because I'm in San Francisco, lived here for the last 12 years or so. And I've followed the criminal justice debate, since Ferguson and the way this has played out. And, I'm of two minds. Like, the US does prosecute certain crimes in a weird way. The sentencing enhancements are unfair. There is certainly some discrimination within police forces, lack of quality representation for some defendants. But on the other hand, we're in a very violent country. Like no other Western industrialized country has this level of violence, even close to it. We have like exponentially more than some others, especially like look at Denmark or Japan or other countries that might be kind of our peers in terms of wealth and education levels. And part of it's just like it's a huge, paradigm for people to crack, because it kind of doesn't make sense. And trying to fix this problem, protecting both victims of crime and people who are unfairly swept up by the system, is tough. So I mean, I get why people wanted to gravitate towards someone like Chesa, but it doesn't make sense, particularly in a city like San Francisco, and to have such an extremist who's taking the backlash against policing and the criminal justice system to such a level that you're tapping into some dark forces in society. Like you have powerful criminal gangs in San Francisco, that are not like criminal gangs in the rest of the country that are killing people, but they're engaging in property theft and the selling of fentanyl that's killing hundreds of people every year on an industrial level. And to completely discount that and say, no, we have, too strong of a police force, that's crazy. And just to be fair to Chesa, I guess the other thing I would say is that he came to power in like 2018, 2019. That was at a time right when, there were, and then during COVID, we had like escalating crime
Uh-huh.
and drug abuse issues across the board. So whether you had a tough on crime prosecutor or a soft on crime, for lack of a better term, prosecutor like Chesa, every city had
Yeah.
worsening problems because of the lockdowns, because of the kind of craziness that was unleashed after George Floyd. And so, it's perhaps not fair to blame all of the San Francisco malaise just on Chesa. It was kind of a city issue that every city dealt with. But that being
Uh-huh.
said, like, he was, I mean, just to give you those are kind of abstractions. Just to give you a concrete example, he would routinely campaign against quality of life policing because he said that was inherently racist. When police go out and like raid or respond to noise complaints or other kinds of quality of life issues, that's how Black and brown people are being harassed, and
Yeah.
that's what we need to get rid of. All this kind of inherently racist policing. But then we had like I remember in 2020 we had just like an explosion of sideshows. These people would shut down the block and
Sure.
the cars. You know what I'm talking about.
It's a nice sound, that burning rubber. It is.
Oh yeah, who doesn't love it? And we had a sideshow in the South Mission area, and I think 2 people were killed.
Yeah.
And this is summer 2020, and then he's tweeting and going to a press conference saying, blaming the cops, or like, why weren't you there to shut this down? It's like, wait a second, if they had proactively shut this down, this predominantly Black and brown event, it's like you would call them racist because you have in the past.
Yeah.
But then when they don't do anything, then he's scapegoating the cops, and like that type of kind of lefty toxic discourse that you usually see on Twitter or in like an academic sphere or some lefty media sphere, taking it into real life has really damaging effects because it destroys the kind of prosecutor-police relationship. It kills morale in the police force. It also just doesn't make sense if you're a citizen just saying like, well, wait, what is a racist form of policing and what is actually a proactive professional form of policing?
Yeah.
Like,
And the worst
where's the line here? It didn't really make sense. And when it's when you're so ideological, you can't actually practice pragmatic policing. That's where we saw this effect where it's San Francisco, and the Fox News version of San Francisco is both like a little bit silly but also kind of true. Like, yeah, like Walgreens everywhere, it's getting robbed every second. Parts of the Tenderloin and other parts of downtown, a complete zombie land. I mean,
dude, even the
it's
Mission
really
right
crazy.
now, even parts of the Mission where I went, like there's a tattoo shop over there that we went to, like, and it was just like, this place didn't used to look like this 5 years ago. I mean, and it's like, it's kind of weird to me because I'm a little more conspiratorial than a lot of people, but also I noticed I think there's this, like, even in the subconscious perhaps of like a progressive, especially somebody who might lean more towards like communism or just like full on, they might be wanting this to just collapse. You know what I mean? To just all around just go, well, if none of this stuff goes right, we're in late stage capitalism, Karl Marx time, and
worst term. I hate that term.
Right, exactly, because it's like, yeah, anytime something bad happens, you can say it. So it's to me, I don't think it is. We live in this technocratic, like, I think we've innovated beyond any sort of
also this like lack of rule of law is not like an early stage unadvanced capitalism. That's
right.
What they have. That's what happens when there's chaos in Afghanistan or Somalia. There's lack of rule of law where there's not much economic sophistication.
Yeah.
Like what I don't get that. I mean, but yeah, no, I mean, in terms of the conspiracy, part of it's like, it's not directed on high. There's no cabal.
Right.
It's more like the end point of certain types of ideology, and it's not capitalism. It's this idea that that the criminals can do no wrong. That the only true crimes are from business owners stealing from their workers. They just kind of there's this failure to understand that. I mean, leftists try to basically rob humanity of human instinct. Like if you don't give certain people a set of rules that we all have to live under, then yeah, there's a small percentage of the population that will take advantage of that and steal and rob and take things. That's that's why we have a rule-based order. But on the flip side of that, there is a little bit of a conspiracy in the sense that you look at who funds Chesa and then Pamela Price and Alameda and a lot of the woke supervisors and the folks who want to abolish police or depolice some of the activist groups. It's a small group of lefty billionaires, mostly spouses of tech oligarchs and real estate oligarchs, who I think a lot of them are well-meaning. They're not purely evil people. They're just in a bubble. They don't live near the
Just
problem.
wrong.
They live in Atherton.
They're
They live in
literally
Santa
wrong.
Cruz.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing, but they're shoveling money to people who are actively making this problem worse out of a sense of righteousness. Like, hey, America's so fundamentally racist or whatever. Yeah, let's give millions of dollars to these abolish the police activists or to someone like Chesa to accomplish some type of goal. But the actual victim, the people who feel this the worst are the people who are most marginal in society. The person working as the security guard at Target is the one being harassed here. The Asian American liquor store owner with a gun, getting a gun to his face, getting robbed. Like, those are the people getting affected by these policies the most. It's not the capitalists who are getting overturned by these activists. It's just random working class people.
Yeah, because if this was late stage capitalism, when are the workers going to seize Google? I don't see that on the horizon. And I remember when there was like a weird Google union happening. This gets memory hold a lot, and it was like this called the Alphabet Union or something, and it was zero economic demand. Like, in the entire thing, I read all of the stuff. It was literally all just something that my conservative uncle would like jot down as a joke of what their demands were. All of those popped up on there, and I was like, okay, I see where people are. I mean, I think they know better. I think they just kind of have dug themselves too deep of a hole to say that it's not working a lot of times. There's like ineptitude and hard-headedness, I think, within a lot of this. But I don't know if you remember.
Fundamentally didn't challenge any of the stuff that we saw during the Trump years and even a little bit after. None of that actually challenged the ruling class in the society, right? Like the capitalist class, the military industrial complex, for lack of a better term, the kind of imperial project that the United States has, which like the lefties chant all this stuff and they make a lot of extreme language around it. But yeah, there is American empire. There is a capitalist class, but all of their actual activism doesn't challenge any of it. And if anything, it just makes it life worse for middle class and working class people in America.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I'll say this right now. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and look, you live in the Bay Area, I live in the Bay Area. It's a lot more than anybody's even guessing right now around the world what it costs, and it doesn't look as great as you would think it does by the cost. But I go out, like, if I hear a shatter in the middle of the night, I'm like, that could be my car. I'm like, that might be my car, and I've gotten used to it. Not used to it, but just I hate it every time. But I think in the progressive, I can just picture some young person in Atherton, which is a more affluent area for people who don't know, Menlo Park, any of these parts, they could go, well, he's going to go outside and look and be like, late stage capitalism. He's going to look at his broken car window and say late stage capitalism, when really that just pushes guys like me towards the right. I mean, I'm sorry. It's more of a binary than people want to accept. And I'm not trying to funnel people and tell people to take their dreams and just throw them by the wayside. But like, most people just go like, how do I stop this from happening to me right now? Like, most people don't think systemically, like when something bad happens, but it's easy to think systemically when nothing that bad happens to you. I guess. I don't know. It's weird to me.
We have elites with idle hands that perhaps have a guilt complex that they're trying to assuage, but because they have so little connection to actual working class concerns, which are often about traffic, crime, the cost of groceries, it becomes abstractions like, oh, let's create this picture where, every criminal is like, there's some type of Robin Hood thing where, the people going around smashing every window or stealing every catalytic converter are, saviors of the working class, when in fact they're the ones victimizing the working class.
It's all you have to do is go outside and see it. I don't know how you can maintain that ideology unless it's kind of one of those things like where people say that I just know what they have and haven't seen a lot of times. And then I don't know if the perfect example of this, and it's sad. It's a sad story, though. It's like it feels almost like a Portlandia skit, like a really grim Portlandia skit. But in Oakland, I think it has to have been a couple years ago by now. There was that woman who's like, I think their family owned a bakery, and she was murdered. And the family or somebody else, they were saying like, we don't want the police involved. And it wasn't like she was a gang member or something and we don't want, the gang's gonna like solve this. It was kind of like, we're still so worried about optics when our family member has been murdered in Oakland, probably senselessly. I'm just gonna go ahead and say like it was probably I don't think she was doing a whole lot to living that type of life, I should say. And it was just like, it felt like a skit that we would have lampooned 10 years ago, but now it's like almost like etiquette to say like, oh yeah, but then like if I tell somebody out of state, they're just like, what?
No, I know what story you're talking about, and yeah, it blows my mind. It's tragic too. I mean, this is a human life we're talking about,
How do you get there? Like that family. It's like they would seem like an independent business owner. Yeah, you can use the gentrification. It didn't seem like a bakery that had been there for 100 years. It seemed like a very boutique 2010s thing that had happened. I don't know much. I could be guessing. I could be wrong on all that stuff. But it just was like, how do you get there? How do you get there as somebody who's not, like I said, like who actually lives in that area? That's what I don't get.
Well, I mean, for a lot of people, I don't know. I don't want to pathologize these particular people because I don't know them.
Yeah, no, it's not about them. It's many such cases, unfortunately.
Yeah, many such cases. It's like,
yeah.
Look, I maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite here. I'm not religious. I have some beliefs that I can't rationalize with evidence and empirical data.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're on
maybe
the perfect, podcast for that, by the way. You're on the perfect podcast for that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, perfect.
But it makes me think that I see the way people talk about certain forms of climate change, racial justice, policing, spirituality, and it's like, yeah, and a lot of these people are committed atheists or agnostics. They can't justify their belief system with any empirical data. They're grasping onto it and grabbing onto totems and iconography that's very religious like, and this gives them meaning, and we're all kind of lonely and atomized in our society. We lack people are not patriotic. We don't have unions. We don't have civic societies.
Yeah.
We don't have community. We're all looking for meaning. And in the absence of meaning, and the absence of whether it's Christ or what have you, whatever religion, people are going to formulate something else. And we wouldn't laugh or make a skit about some. I mean, there's a lot to criticize about Christianity, but the Christian ethic is the foundation for a lot of my secular beliefs. This idea that we're all basically equal. I don't have any data to prove that, but that comes from the Christian ethic, and
yeah, sure.
I share that belief on a kind of fundamental level.
Yeah.
If someone said, "Hey, look, I got to turn the other cheek, even though someone did something brutal to my family," that kind of doesn't make sense. But I find it beautiful, that kind of Christian ethic too. And in this case, yeah, it doesn't quite make sense that they did this. In fact, maybe it's actually doing more harm, because if you're like saying, "Hey, police, let's not apprehend the brutal murderers of my family member," that's actually harming the community, because then they're going to go out and do it again.
Yeah.
But the kind of ethics that go into it, it's the same kind of metaphysics that that go into other religious beliefs that do actually have a lot of meaning. So I don't know there. I'm just kind of rambling here about
no, you're
like,
100%
these things.
I
don't know, but I sense that it's like there's a cosmic connection there, that people want this like a powerful worldview that explains society, and they want to adhere to that, because what else are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Because right, you brought up the Christian example. I am a Christian, so it's kind of one of those things. Okay, if that happens to me and my family, I can't say how I would react, because that would just be fake. Like, I don't know until, God forbid, that ever happens. Now, that being said, forgiveness and prosecution are completely different. If I could forgive the person, however, they committed a crime because we live in a society. Like that's a term that you hear everywhere on the internet. But we do live in a society. That's what happens. You kill somebody, ideally you go to jail for life. Typically, if it's in the fashion in which that happened, I may still forgive you at that point because again, forgiveness would be more for me, for my sake, to basically honor the relative that I lost. To say it's almost like this, like spiritual materialism, kind of like almost nihilism, to just say like, well, I forgive, and actually I don't want to put this guy in jail.
No, I mean, I agree with you. There's a nihilistic quality. Like society's so broken, then just let the criminals continue on their rampage. It's dangerous. I'm not co-signing. I'm just wondering.
No, you're right.
That core belief that underlies it.
No,
where's that come
from? It's nothing, and everyone's a transplant too. So it's like I'm not trying, and I don't even mean that from out of the country. We have Bay Area has always been a place of immigration and stuff, but the just transplants is just people coming in either to make some money and leave, to make some money and stay. They there's the vested interest doesn't seem to be there, and it's very strange.
From the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that red candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, can't do shit.
I will say though, for all the time I hear from the Fox News crowd of like, you'll see like the kind of like, I don't know if it's Jesse Waters, but like that type of guy will just film like, Market Street freeway exit and there's like fires underneath the freeway. All that stuff will happen. All that stuff will happen. Howard Street, all that stuff's true, but it's the same freeway exit every time. I've always noticed. It's insane. MacArthur in Oakland is the same way. They'll do it. I gotta say, all the stuff that the conservative people say about San Francisco, I can still have a beautiful day in San Francisco. I know exactly where to go. I'll go to Little Italy. I'll go to Fort Point. I'll go to all the cool Alfred Hitchcock spots that are still there. I'll do all those things, and I can still have a good time. And yeah, you'll run into some trouble if you go into the wrong place. But those places have always been bad. I think just a lot of them are worse now. Oakland, I don't recognize anymore. I go to Oakland. It is Escape from New York. It is scary. Like it's completely different. And again, you're not a sports guy. However, it's got to be a little weird to you that all 3 teams just leave. And
it's sad.
Yeah, and
especially how much of a sports town it is.
The economy. I mean, I used to go to Oakland A's games, which between the A's, Warriors, and Raiders, people had year-round employment there. The same people, very good. You'd see old people happy to be at their job, which right now you don't see right now anywhere at any company. It seems like nobody just seems happy to be there, happy to help you. That's gone. That's out the window. And there's people like I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's been on this program I think a couple times. Seneca Scott will go out there and raise, I think, some very, very, very poignant issues, stuff that he sees with his own eyes. And people just shoot him down, kill the messenger. You know what I mean? Like he gets all sorts of hate for that. When, like I said, I don't understand how anybody could be in Oakland or in the Bay Area for 20 years or longer and go there and say, yeah, this is fine.
No, I agree. I mean, San Francisco is still pretty nice. Like your entire assessment, I agree with.
Yeah.
There are pockets that are, exponentially worse than they were 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
But the city as a whole is still really, really beautiful and pretty safe. If you're stupid, just like in any city, you can run into some trouble. But yeah, Oakland has changed fundamentally. It's sad. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the East Bay.
I love the East Bay. I love
the East Bay too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's actually some of the most. It drew me to the Bay Area more than San Francisco initially. Yeah. Just because the suburbs are so cool. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from the Mid-Atlantic, from Maryland.
Oh.
And, they're Berkeley, comically, economically, and racially segregated. Like, they're designed from, like, the 50s where you couldn't walk from one to the other because they only have these tiny sidewalks. You got to get in a car to get to the other ones. Walking through San Leandro or Berkeley or, up to Richmond, it's like people mix. People drive together. There's a great, unique East Bay culture. and it's just as overall great vibes compared to any suburbs. Go to a suburb in St. Louis, go to suburbs of Chicago, go to suburbs anywhere in this country, and they're kind of terrible vibes. The East Bay used to have a great vibe. People were very friendly. Like it kind of got infused with like Southern Black culture, Asian culture,
Yeah.
Latino culture, hippie culture,
Oh,
and
yeah.
created its own thing that was very nice.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I love it so much. And I'm from the South Bay. I was born and raised in the South Bay, but like again, I grew up going to the sports games in the East Bay, but then going to like concerts, you know, like at Gilman and all you know, that was the place to go. And like San Francisco was kind of like that to me was always just like, that's where, you know, it just seems like so formal to go there, but you would just go to the East Bay and just kind of meander around and stuff. But you don't do that anymore. I mean, like I was in Jack London Square, which is for anybody who doesn't know, that is like a massive commercial area. And it was this last year, pretty much this weekend last year, it was for my mom's birthday. And it was like on a Saturday and there's just nothing happening. And just,
Yeah.
I think either people move there and just don't go outside because they're just moving there for work. And
Everyone
they
I
don't
know,
care.
multiple car smashings, have had their shit jacked. It's like, you know, that happens some in San Francisco, obviously, but it's just on another level in Oakland. And, you know, in San Francisco, we just have a very low homicide rate. And like when people do die, obviously it's always tragic, but it's usually, if you kind of read between the lines in the news stories around the homicides, it's people who knew each other, some gang thing. There are too many random shootings and drive-bys where innocent civilians get killed in Oakland that it's entirely different.
No, it's exactly. And like, you know, and you hate to bring it up, but I think you know him as well, and he's a good friend of our show. But Jared Klickstein is a guy who I think does I mean,
Yeah,
he's been to all those neighborhoods and spent a lot of time outside. He definitely is one of those guys that just absolutely has the take on it because he's seen every level of, you know, society in the Bay Area, and it's just like look, there's always been kind of like drug addicts going around in the street in the Bay Area. It's something I'm used to. They're like, I guess it's the fentanyl now, but they're like, it's like Michael Jackson Thriller now. Like just the aggressiveness of it all. Like it's not the guy mumbling to himself anymore. He's like in your face and stuff. And it's quite scary. And I don't know. I don't know where the fentanyl's coming from. Like, is it, you know, my conservative uncle will say it's coming from the border in Mexico. Somebody else will tell me it's from China. Somebody else will tell me it's at pharmacies or something. I have no idea where it's coming from, but it's scary.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It used to be rare to see people using hard drugs that openly on like the BART. Now, like maybe a third of the times I go on the BART, I see fentanyl or meth smoking. I can't really tell when people are,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
freebasing, but
yeah,
they're freebasing something. Sometimes it seems like fentanyl. And yeah, it's quality of life. It's like, I don't know. If you know, I read the Hunter Biden memoir. I kind of got into the reporting there. It's like, you know, if you're a wealthy person, the way that society, that your family deals with you is that your drugs get taken away. You get sent to, you know, swanky resort style rehab in Utah or Arizona or Southern California, but then it's strict. You know, it's basically prison. You have limited phone access, you have zero drug access. You're constantly getting your pockets checked, you know, to make sure you have nothing on you.
Yeah.
But here in the Bay Area, if you become a drug addict and you're poor, you get this harm reduction approach where they say, hey, here's an easier way to shoot up. Here are, you know, extra tools to get high. And here's ways to destigmatize being an addict. It's like, you know, people are living in a prison when they're in this level of addiction where they have to get high on the BART every day or whatever. And we don't see it as a health emergency that it is, and intervene in ways that save people. It's rather seen as like an individual choice, like, you know, in your kind of personal consumer or sexual habits, and it's something that needs to be protected in its own sphere. It's an ideological commitment that, it blows me away because like I think there's kind of like this rising, people call it conservative, but I think it's mostly just like a moderate backlash. Pretty
Yeah,
much everyone's
exactly.
like a
Mhm.
centrist, center leftist person here, at least especially compared to the rest of the country,
Mhm.
But there's this growing backlash against this stuff, but there's still a core of a lot of San Franciscans, for whatever reason, that still cling to this idea that you know the harm reduction, protecting each person's individual choices here, like it's a human liberty issue. It just confounds me because if you have family members who have dealt with severe schizophrenia or bipolar mental issues and then an addiction, this is a prison for them, and to break them free requires much more direct intervention,
Yeah.
not enabling more abuse.
I 100%. And like, I know somebody, and they're just those type of people, these people that go, oh, it's this because of that. We can't be mad at the individual person. That I know somebody that had somebody squatting in their house. They were gone for a while. They were gone for a couple months, going to Europe. So you see what kind of money they had and stuff. So they were I know this person enough to uh speculate on what they believe and stuff. And they said they had somebody like squatting in their house, and they like were posting on whatever social media saying, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess that, and they're like, we know squatters have rights and stuff. And I don't get the idea that this was somebody that was squatting in there with like a family, couple kids, or something like that. This was somebody that found a cool little spot to shoot up dope and stuff. And it's, again, you're saying like it's not really a right wing position. However, it will be framed as a right wing position if they were like, cops, get over here now, get these people out of my house, which is most people would agree that's deep down. Couple beers at the bar, we'd all agree that that's what needs to happen. It's like, man, they're in the absence of a spirituality, like they cling to that dogmatic ideology of progressivism, which isn't solid. Like there's no scripture on it. It's a new set of marching orders all the time, and that seems to be the latest one, was squatters' rights. I was like, what?
No, yeah, this ideology changes, and I'm not even sure what it's fixed to, because if you ask the random lefty Bernie people, what society in the world best resembles your worldview? Like, what do you want? What's your utopia? If you had to point to someone somewhere, like I think the more informed ones that won't just say, it can never exist or it's in the future post-capitalism, they'll say Norway or Denmark or Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
But those are places that have higher per capita policing than we do, that have more direct interventions than we do, that do not allow open air drug markets, that have much more direct police intervention in terms of property crime.
Yeah.
And that's not at odds at all with social democracy. Like I'm sympathetic to a lot of the Bernie world's point of view, but there's this cognitive dissonance that they have to do this kind of performative, all criminals, like criminals don't cause crime, like it's all these systemic issues. It's like, well, this society that you're trying to construct in your mind just doesn't exist. Like you can have universal healthcare, universal education, including like Denmark, where they pay you to go to grad school, undergrad's free and they pay you to go to grad school. You can have that and still have a functioning society without squatters and open air drug markets and not being able to walk through the streets because of situations like the Tenderloin. They've eliminated that. They actually have more police per capita in most of their cities than we do.
Yeah, that exactly. And nobody wants to see how those things are constructed. They just like to see this kind of end result with it, which they've probably absorbed in meme format. A lot of times, like Denmark has this, and this. Like, why don't we have that? It's like, well, maybe watch a hour-long documentary about how they got that and stuff. And it's just, Lee, I know we got to get you out of here in a little bit, but I just wanted to know your last for the last question I have, like, what is like your utopia for the Bay Area? You know what I mean? I'm a little weird. I'm kind of more of like a hippie kind of like grass. I don't think my utopia is attainable at all, but like, what would it be?
Actually, I'll respond, but I want to hear yours. That's
oh man,
this is a good question, because I think actually challenging people who are interested in politics or public policy to describe what they want is very illuminating, because most people can say what they don't like. They can say what they are upset about, but they can't actually construct a reality they want to live in. And, you know, I don't want to be too crazy about any demands, but, you know, okay, to get a little bit pie in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
I want, and, you know, I should write this up because I talk about this a lot with friends and
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
folks, but I want democracy. Like we have like in San Francisco, we have a board of supervisors. Everyone's a Democrat. No one understands any of the elections. Ranked choice doesn't make sense. You know, good in theory doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah.
We have like talked to 10 different people in San Francisco from different walks of life. There are lots of very discernible points of view, but we only have one political party to represent them. I think one concrete step is just say, let's get rid of our political system. Let's have a multi-party democracy. City of Berlin, for example, has a proportional parliamentary city council and mayoral system. It's actually governed by the center right because it actually allows everyone to participate, and there's like 5 different or 6 different political parties that get to compete. Sure. In a city like San Francisco, which is just as left-wing as Berlin, we have one political party. It doesn't make any sense. I think that's a very simple solution that's not like one thing that could actually fix San Francisco for the long term. The second thing is that, you know, I have covered and written about the war in Afghanistan for a very long time. And one thing that the Democrats did a great job of doing once they took back power in 2006 in terms of Congress, they forced Bush to sign into a law called the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. And what it basically did was that we knew that the Pentagon lied, USAID lied about all these programs. It created a special investigative force to look at every dollar spent in Afghanistan and create these annual reports. The Pentagon lied to us in every way, shape, and form. The contractors lied. Everyone lied to the American people. The only truth you can really find in terms of a government report about what happened in Afghanistan is from this outside inspector general report. Like it shouldn't have to come from the New York Times or from any reporter that we spend like $2 million on a toilet, or that, you know, we've got these like jobs that do nothing jobs in San Francisco or whatever.
Yeah.
We need to take the power away from the politicians and actually give it to auditors and actually understand how our dollars are spent in San Francisco. We don't have that, which is crazy. Like this is one of the wealthiest cities in the world, highest per capita billionaires, lots of money and all this innovation, and we don't actually know where the money's spent. Let's get a special inspector general. And I don't know, the most boring. Those are my maybe more out there, and then just in terms of structural fundamental change, you know, I came here as a NIMBY. Like I was skeptical of real estate interests. Now I guess I'm a YIMBY. Like we gotta just build our way out of it. Like if we could have the housing stock that was necessary, then prices would come down. They wouldn't crater, but look at cities like Austin and even DC that have built huge amounts of housing. It's cheaper to live there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I'm with you on a lot of that stuff, to be honest. And like for me, it's just I want to. There's lots of things in the Bay Area that I want that are a little just like more like health related in sense. Like I think just the fact is, I want to. If we're gonna do the affordable housing way, I do think there has to be some sort of means testing. And I know that's like terrible to say, but
yeah,
like, I do see. So there's some beautiful, actually really nice, definite like government housing, I guess Section 8 kind of situations going on, and you see people just not going to work every day. And these are I see some people that can go to work. Like there's some people that probably physically can't or are in a mental state where they can't. They need to have help for that, actual help to rehabilitate people. Because I do think if you actually catch people who are maybe in like their 15, 16, 17 years old that are like on drugs, like you are actually able to get them onto a nice career. Our friend Jared is a very, good example of that. And you get to, that it's I think you need to there needs to be somewhat of a cutting, just, okay, we cannot fix the past, right? The past is the past. Through ineptitude, we've gotten this far where we have just crime everywhere, yet it costs an arm and a leg to live here. I do think that there needs to be investing in infrastructure in terms of like linemen and the trades and stuff. If you talk to a lot of people that don't work for PG&E, a lot of their subcontractors all come from all over the United States. And what they do is they take their money and go back to like Alabama. They'll work like 6 months out of the year in California, basically fireproofing everything for the summer. And they'll go back there with making like $200,000 a year, but taking that back to a state where the money's not being spent. And I don't know what law you could put against that, but I think the fact is if you don't have that type of if there's a demand, and there's a huge infrastructural demand in California, why aren't we teaching people to do that out here?
That's
like
that's a good point.
And like I said, you might work for PG&E, which is Pacific Gas and Electric, which is a big, like it is, they have a monopoly in California in terms of the power. Up north, they have some problems, but otherwise they own it all. Now they have so much work because there's a lot of fires, and California does not build infrastructure to actually withstand poor weather. Now, a lot of things are earthquake proof. We'll find out if that actually is the case. Hopefully not anytime soon, but it seems like it'll happen. But a lot of stuff isn't really rain, fire, wind proof, and a lot of disasters. But we bring in people from all over the United States to come over here and not spend the money here. And so I just think there's this constant revolving door of the Bay Area. When I remember even growing up, it was just families and families and families that lived here for a long time. And we weren't just searching for people to come out here to build things. We have millions of people here.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know. It's something I think about a lot, and it's under discussed in terms of this, because the infrastructure of the Bay Area is kind of shitty. If you drive here at all, it's not great. Also, I don't understand our high taxes. I don't. I'm sorry. Like I don't see it in action. I don't see what I'm paying for a lot of times. Maybe you have an answer to that. I don't know what I'm paying for a lot of times, because Caltrans is funded by tax money and there's potholes everywhere. So I'm just like, we have like 1970s freeway infrastructure for 2024 population. It's not great. I'd like spending there. And I'm sorry, there's something you got to do. Like if you're going to come out here and build tech, make big tech companies, you're going to come out here and bring your company to out west, which people have been doing since the 1800s to succeed. If you want to do that, I think you have to invest in the infrastructure for the people that live here. I don't know how you do it. These tech companies are bigger than the government right now, I think, but there's got to be a way.
They're wealthier than entire nation states.
Yeah,
look at the capitalization of just Meta. Like how many countries are even that big?
It's depressing, dude. Dude, that guy's house is bigger than like most. Like I feel like countries, man. Zuck is crazy, dude. I've seen his house. It's nuts. It's nuts. But that's my utopia. It's utopia. I don't expect it to happen, which is why I probably will have to move somewhere else. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. But to stay here, I think that's what a lot of people want. And but anyways, Lee, link your Substack one time before we go.
Yeah, it's just, I bought a domain. Someone squatted on my name. I had to pay.
Squatters' rights, Lee. Sorry.
Someone used their squatters' rights on my domains. I had to pay a couple $1,000s. It's the most expensive thing I bought in years. It's just my name.com, leefang.com. So I got that. I thought that was important to do. I don't know if it was actually important. Maybe not.
I think it is. I think it is. Yeah. Because like you just type it in and you're just like, okay, it's not .this.com. So that's great. So yeah, and again, we're Rare Candy. We cover everything. We cover novels. We cover current events. We cover all types of stuff, weird hippie spiritual books. We do have our own Substack, which has a paid feed, full RSS feed. That's our podcast. Gain of Fiction is on there. Sai, who couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately, he has his book club called Psyops on there. And then we just horse around a little bit on that feed as well. So that's rarecandy.substack.com. Lee, we'd love to have you on again sometime to talk about something, because there's much to discuss. So thank you so much for your time, and everybody have a safe week.
Hey, this was great. Take care.
next one.